Walter Hauser Brattain was born on February 10, 1902 in Amoy, China. In China, his father was a teacher, and after only a year of living there, the family returned to their native state of Washington, where Brattain grew up on a cattle ranch. Brattain attended Whitman College, where he majored in physics. He went on to receive his MS in physics from the University of Oregon and his PhD from the University of Minnesota. At the age of 26, he began working at his first job at the National Bureau of Standards as a radio engineer. He left a year later to join Bell Laboratories. There, Brattain's research was focused on the surface properties of solids and the variations of the atomic structure of a material's interior and exterior. During World War II, he spent 2 years working on technology to detect submarines under a government-sponsored project. After the war, the American Telephone and Telegraph Company wanted to broaden their horizons and improve their services. They consulted Bell Laboratories to innovate the system, so they chose Brattain's team to join the project. In 1947, their team discovered a way to replace the vacuum tube by placing a semiconductor to boost up the electricity. It was called the point contact transistor. The transistor ushered the information age, and the men were recognized for their work. In 1952, Brattain was given the Stuart Ballantyne Medal of the Franklin Institute to honor him for his contributions to electronics. In 1956, Brattain shared the ownership of a Nobel Peace Prize for Physics for their influential discovery. Wallace Hume Carruthers was an American man credited with the invention of nylon. He was born in America's heartland, Iowa, in April of 1896. Carruthers received an arts degree and a PhD in organic chemistry. After receiving several degrees, DuPont Chemical Company offered Carruthers a job position. At DuPont, his main goal was to synthesize polymer with a molecular weight of more than 4,200, and after multiple papers and patents, he reached his goal. In 1931, Carruthers created neoprene. Neoprene is a synthetic rubber that became the first commercially successful specialty. Later, he made the Carruthers equation by figuring out a theory of step growth polymerization. As a result, Carruthers obtained superpolymers, which contributed to the creation of nylon. Due to Carruthers' depression, he escaped his life as a scientist and was admitted into treatment. Later, he returned to DuPont to continue his research. In 1934, Carruthers finally pulled long, flexible, and strong strands of synthetic polymer. Carruthers made the patent for nylon, but it was known as Tiber 66 for a long time. Quickly, nylon became very popular among women as hosiery, and then during World War II, when it was rationed in order to be used to replace Japanese silk and parachutes. Carruthers was given a position as an associate editor of the American Chemical Society. The several years that Carruthers dedicated to finding a synthetic rubber paid off when he was elected to the National Academy of Sciences. Hans von Ohain was a German scientist and designer who is mostly known for his success in jet propulsion. He was born in Dessau, Germany in December of the year 1911. While he was earning his degree, he noticed that an engine he worked with did not require a propeller. After he received a PhD in physics and aerodynamics in 1935, he later earned the patent for the jet engine. After Pohl recommended Ohain for his creative and intelligent ideas, he began to work for Heinkel. Here, he was able to create and test the idea he had of a working jet engine. In 1936, von Ohain signed a consulting agreement with the Heinkel Company in Rostock. After directing a research and development program, Dr. von Ohain designed and produced a successful liquid-fueled engine. The HES-3B engine was installed in the HE-17-8 airplane, and the first turbojet-powered aircraft made its first flight on August 27, 1939, at Heinkel Airfield near Rostock, Germany. Life in America. Hans von Ohain came to the United States in 1947 and became a research scientist at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. While he was serving as a group leader at the Wright Air Development Center, he made a survey study of trends and research objectives in the field of energy conversion and propulsion. The results of his study were documented in a report and used by Air Research and Development Command. His data was utilized for research planning in the field of propulsion. Ohain's role in the Air Force. In September of the year 1963, Ohain became the chief scientist of the Aerospace Research Laboratory, and he continued his responsibilities as a research leader in the field of energy conversion and propulsion. In this position, Ohain played an important role in virtually all Air Force basic research concerning the physical and engineering sciences. He came to have a lot of influence and power in the Air Force. Hans von Ohain was an AIAA Honorary Fellow, a member of the National Academy of Engineering, and a Charles Lindbergh Professor of the National Air and Space Museum. He was inducted to the International Aerospace Hall of Fame and the Engineering and Sciences Hall of Fame. Werner von Braun was born in March of the year 1912. He was a German engineer that played a notable role in aspects of space exploration and rocketry in the United States after World War II. At the Berlin Institute of Technology, Braun assisted the German Society for Space Travel in a series of liquid-fueled rocket motor tests. After he graduated, he enrolled in the University of Berlin, where his talents were recognized by the Ordnance Department of Germany. The Major General let him set up a small solid-fuel rocket testing station. Later, he wrote a thesis called About Combustion Tests, in which he explained the finer details of his research. By December of 1934, Braun had successfully launched 2 rockets that had risen about 2.4 kilometers. Braun demonstrated the takeoff of the long-range missile A-4. The A-4 specifically was made by the propaganda ministry as V-2, meaning Vengeance Weapon 2. After World War II, the German team was working for the U.S. Army Ordnance Corps. This was where they tested, assembled, and supervised the launching of captured V-2s. In 1952, Braun became the technical chief director of the U.S. Army Weapons Program. 3 years later, he became an American citizen. Braun and his Army group launched the first U.S. satellite, Explorer 1, on January 31, 1958. Then he became the director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center and led the development of the large space launch vehicles Saturn I, IV, and V. In 1975, he founded the National Space Institute, a private organization whose objective was to gain public support and understanding of space activities. Robert Watson Watt was a Scottish man whose main accomplishment was the invention of the radar. He was born in Angus, Scotland on the 13th of April in 1892. He became an assistant of an important physics professor named William Petty, who encouraged Watson Watt to study the radio. With his studies of radio frequency and wireless telegraphy, Watson Watt commenced his journey to the discovery of the radar. Early in his life, his interest in the detection of thunderstorms brought him to his job at the meteorological office. Here he was able to explore and experiment on using radio waves to detect storms. He directed radio research and explored the ways to locate a moving aircraft. To find why static occurred in radio, Watson Watt, along with Edward Appleton, developed a squegger. This made a time-based display and was a time-based circuit, which became the key to the creation of the radar. Following his work at the National Physics Laboratory, he was appointed as the director of Bawdsey Research Station as a result of a successful trial where a shortwave radio was used to detect a bomber. Here he created a chain of radar stations throughout the east and south coast of Great Britain. Watson Watt conducted a demonstration on one of BBC's shortwave broadcasting stations in Daventry, Great Britain with pioneer Arnold Wilkins. Afterwards, he received a patent on a radio device for detection and location on an aircraft called a radar. Julius Robert Oppenheimer was born in New York City on April 22, 1904. In 1926, he went to the University of Göttingen to study under Max Born, obtaining a PhD at the age of 22. When World War II began, Oppenheimer eagerly became involved in the development of an atomic bomb. He took over work on neutron calculation, and in June 1942, General Leslie Groves appointed him as the scientific director of the Manhattan Project. Under Oppenheimer's guidance, the laboratories at Los Alamos were constructed. There, he brought the best minds in physics to work on the problem of creating an atomic bomb. In the end, he was managing more than 3,000 people and tackling theoretical and mechanical problems that arose. He is often referred to as the father of the atomic bomb. The joint work at Los Alamos resulted in the first nuclear explosion at Alamogordo on July 16, 1945, which Oppenheimer named Trinity. Oppenheimer was appointed chairman of the General Advisory Committee to the Atomic Energy Commission. In his role, he voiced strong opposition to the development of the hydrogen bomb. At the height of the U.S. anti-communist feeling, Oppenheimer was accused of having communist sympathies, and his security clearance was taken away. From 1947 to 1966, Oppenheimer became the director of Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study. As a director, he stimulated discussion and research on quantum and relativistic physics in the School of Natural Sciences. Oppenheimer retired from the institute in 1966 and died of throat cancer on February 18, 1967.
Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu us that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.